Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we should be good to go now. I'm really beginning to feel like I really need a third screen. Because it's like, times where it's like, you know, you want to have your notes out. You know what? I'm going to get brilliant here. I'm going to pull up my notes on my iPad. Because I can do that this week. Sometimes it doesn't work because like I have links and I want to be able to, you know, click and link up to them. But this week I don't. So that means I can say goodbye. And now I just gotta wait for them to sync. And we got a few minutes here before we are going to rock and roll with tonight. There, the notes are there. Right there. But yes, tonight we are getting back to Sophos. Like I have long promised. We are back. Will probably be the last time. Unless they come out with something spectacular. But we will have to wait and see. But yeah. We'll be starting here in just a few minutes. Who knows? I'm not sure we'll have enough to do a whole nother show. Unless they come out with some really new features. I know that I do know they have a new beta version out, so I have not tried that. But we'll see. We'll start here in about 10 minutes. several, but 10 minutes. 10 minutes ago. Make it to sharing to start that local recording because it can save you if you accidentally delete something. Turning off the auto lock. That way I don't have to worry about my iPad going to sleep and having to lose my notes. Still got like 5 minutes until we get off and rolling. This is what it feels like to be prepared. Um, Something I kind of feel like I've finally, maybe I've at least taken a step in the right direction. Um, because there's been just shows where I finally finished like the topic and like what I want, what it's gonna be like in the last hour or two before the show starts, and so that can be a little bit stressful, just a little bit stressful. Um, Plus, then you're just not prepared, and so it's been like the last couple of weeks, I think. If I look here, if I just look at, yeah, because last week was Windows 10. Last couple of weeks, I've actually gotten show notes. Although I've usually been like writing the show notes like right before the show, or at least the notes that I go off of. I need to, this week I kind of um, I had been doing some work on the Sophos, getting it set up, kind of to be the router for my kind of uh, test environment. Um, and so I've been doing some work on that, and then I'd listen to the other the first episode I did on Sophos, trying to look at and see what do I need to hit in the second time around, like things like I said. Oh, I'll take a deeper look at this later. Um, and so it's like, okay, I've done the work that I needed to do, got the topic laid down. Actually, have the topic for the next few shows laid down. Um, Kind of feels like, up until now, I've been kind of like almost flying by the seat of my pants, And then now it's like, it's kind of like, in sports, you talk about the game is slowing down for you. And I feel like now it has. um, so hopefully content and that kind of stuff will start to pick up, and hopefully we'll get some more listeners and that sort. That would just be awesome. But we will see where that stuff goes. Um, but we're practically there. It is 8:29 with the start slated for 8:30. So, we got 1 minute left, and then we're ready to rock and roll. Hopefully, we'll have some fun tonight, and hopefully, you'll get a better idea of some of the features of Sophos. And now it is 8:30. So, welcome. This is Pete's Tech Den show number 29. 29. Next week will be 30. Hitting the 30 mark. This is a show where we talk about how to take old tech and reuse it in new ways, and just in general how to do cool stuff with technology very cheaply. And then occasionally we delve into the moral issues that technology brings with it. Um, and always having lots of fun, discovering new things, um, learning to push the boundaries of what can be done. And this week is filmed on October 2nd, 2015. So this week, we are talking up Sophos. And one thing that I kind of like last episode, like I talked about some of the problems I'd had installing Sophos, and it's like I thought I was like thinking about doing the show and thinking about like what things I wanted to talk about, and when I was like, I just need just running you through the installation process. So kind of the way we're gonna attack this is we're gonna start the installation process, and then in those moments where the installation process is doing its thing, we'll just leave it. Go talk about some of the features a little bit deeper, and then we'll come back to it when it's done its thing. So, with that all said, we are going to jump straight into installation. So, I'm actually going to tell this thing to, okay, we are rebooting. So this is the first screen you see when it comes up, and you obviously hit enter. It comes up here. It's pretty simple stuff. Right now it's just detecting what hardware you have. Usually you're going to want 2 network cards, but since I'm kind of just running this in a test environment, I just have 1. Okay, so I mean this is usually your basic. Here it's setting up your time zone. Just kind of your basic installation stuff. Here you're setting up basically the network interfaces. It's on a 64-bit machine. And you want all the capabilities. So yes. Now it's partitioning. So super interesting. So now we're gonna let that do its thing while I'll set it off over here to the side so I can see what it's doing. But while that's doing its thing, now we're gonna jump over. So this is the finished install. And do some talking about some things. Some things that as the more I've looked at this, like a lot of these features that the Sophos has are like stuff that's just for like the enterprise. But this is one thing I was looking at here is this log here for the just admins. Just your web admin sessions, and allows you to see like, oh here, when somebody logged on, if they made any changes, and what changes they made. So it can be super helpful if you have something happen and you're trying to figure out who did it, kind of a thing. A couple of things that I kind of wanted to check to um, to kind of go over again. As I put down notifications, I'm trying to remember why. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, these notifications are pretty extensive. forget what I wanted to go over them. So we'll just skip over that. There were a couple features that like I talked about going in more in depth, and the more I looked at them, like the essential management, which kind of looks like it's for again if you have more than one of them, which obviously you're not going to have. Sweet. Is kind of that uh, uh, if you have more than one of them and stuff, and so you kind of synchronize your definitions and that kind of stuff. And then mobile control is apparently looking at this, and it's kind of like place where you can control your people that are like coming in through like VPNs and stuff. But you need a separate Sophos mobile control server. So again, another one of those. It's a feature you're probably it look like you're gonna have to pay for, and Paul lack of use. High availability is another one of those like more advanced features that you're probably gonna have to pay for. But and it looked like for one where you might have more than one kind of a thing again. This definition of the users, I kind of blew over this in the first one, and the more I dug into it, I kind of began to understand what what they're using this for. And the thing is like really, if you have this, this kind of setup, it helps when you're setting up other things. Like this is the first thing, because what this does is it allows you to start to define things. Like, okay, here's what the external, outside is. And so you can, define your external and internal and, your services, like what ports things are, kind of, which can be super helpful. What time periods are, and these are things that they're basically assigning a value to the term. So it's kind of like in math when you'd have like, the problem of, x plus y equals z, and they would be like, well, x equals this, and z equals this, so then what does y equal, kind of thing. But it's assigning something that's, easily recognizable, like, oh, lunch, that's what time lunch is, and it allows you then, if you set it up like this, like, and you use them in the other ones, then, say the time that you do lunch changes. So, well, you could come back to here, and you just change it here. You change it in one spot, and it changes it everywhere, which can be super helpful. Especially when here it comes to like, users, and you can set up your client authentications, and then what you're going to use for authentication services. So just wanted to briefly touch on it, because if you do set it up, like, I think if we come down here to interfaces and routing. Um, and you can say edit this. Don't, not sure, it's not showing it there. Quality of services. I can show it down here. I think. Nope. Traffic selectors. Let's see if. I guess this folder. Yes. So like here you can see when I hit the folder, then it brings up all of these and say just for the admins. Then I can just drag this over and boom, it's there, and that's assigned. So hopefully you can kind of see, because now if admins change, I can delete and add people to it, and it'll change it through all the settings, which, is super helpful. Plus, then it's really easy to tell, who is this destination kind of thing. Cancel that. This interface routings area is where you would do like port forwarding and opening up ports and stuff like that. Except, well, not opening ports, because ports would be later, because that would be in network protection, because you have the firewall, which is where this is where you'd open up the ports. Actually, it's got a little sidetrack, but earlier when I said sweet, it's because of this. Boom. I forgot how simple, like, the biggest thing about it is just remembering burn it to a CD. Burn it to a CD. Like, that's the big thing. It did not work at all with a USB. Had all kinds of trouble. Burn it to a CD, and then boom, like this. It's up and running. Super fast. And then obviously you reboot, and the machine itself will boot up like this. And then, like it said, you had to go to the IP address and making sure you enter in that port number, and then you're back up to where I am right here. So yeah, like see there, there's 192.168.2.100, and then port 4444. Now that the port number you can change. It's in, if you go to management and then system settings, I believe. Let me make sure. No, it's web admin settings. Ha. And then you look at and then advanced. So you go to management, web admin settings, which makes sense because you're changing that, and then advanced, and you will change the port number there. But yeah, so super simple. So simple. I forgot how simple. So now we're just going to power that machine off because they're done with it. I'll jump back up here, and man, I really thought that installation was going to take a lot longer than it did. And so the next section I wanted to kind of touch on was one that I wasn't even really thinking about the first time I came through this. and it's this. I mean, because you've kind of, you're thinking about your different layers of security and you know, how you protect yourself. Well, I mean, there's kind of the basic stuff. I think we've talked about at some point with antivirus, and it's kind of, it's a very defensive mentality of defending your computer, where it's just protecting, just protecting your computer and just protecting against known threats, um, which is all nice and well. Um, and then you've got, your firewall, which is just, it's protecting you based on how you've set it up and what ports are open, what ports are closed, that kind of stuff. Um, Obviously, there's going to be ports open and still ways to, kind of exploit uh, your security. I mean, there's always going to be. Um, and then, you get to these things where they're more of a kind of a kind of like doing recon and then going on the offensive kind of a thing, where you're looking at, um, in this case called, advanced threat protection, um, and this intrusion prevention. Um, the advanced threat protection is usually called, you'll usually see it referred to as the IDS, which is intrusion detection system. You usually have your intrusion detection system, which is kind of doing your recon. It's trying to, pay attention to what is happening on the network and trying to pick up on anomalies and, things that are a little out of place that, that might be something you want to pay attention to. Um, and then you have you know, your intrusion prevention system, your IPS. Um, that's, I mean, it's a sense, usually, sometimes they're kind of like together, but they'll look at the data that the IDS is bringing in and try to prevent attacks. And so it's a little more of on the offensive, and it's usually on you know the router or firewall kind of place, um, and that way it's not just looking at just your little computer. It's looking at it very broadly. It's looking at what's happening on the entire network. Um, and this is something I've really been looking into recently. Um, on the PSN, it's actually implemented one. It's an IDS slash IPS together, um, and that one's called Snort. Um, and been kind of interesting, just all the data that it's pulling up. Kind of had it in a little more on the recon side, because the problem you have when is you're trying to limit, um, you know, false positives, where it's blocking something you really don't want it to block. Um, so that's even like, I mean, just doing a quick short overview of that, because I think that might be something where I might do an entire show looking at those, because especially with the way technology is going with things like the Internet of Things, stuff where you're gonna see a lot of things on your network, and things where, like, you're not necessarily gonna be able to put an antivirus software on your, you know, on your like smart plug or your smart thermostat or your smart light bulbs. Um, and so you kind of have to begin to rethink, how we're doing security and look to, you know, implement some of these things where, maybe you're looking at it more of a network-wide thing where you're trying to cover everything. Um, Obviously, you still with, potentially your tablets and your uh, phones and, computers where they may be mobile. You may want, some level of protection there too, just because you're not always going to be on your network. Um, Although that's where some of kind of the fun things with like using like a VPN, because then you can bring it back inside your network and then go out, which means then you'd be back inside your network and protected under your systems. Although you still have to pay attention to, what kind of encryption are you doing on your VPN connection, and how are you authenticating. And always, some of the best defense is just common sense. Um, Not clicking on those sketchy links, and um, that will keep you out of a lot of trouble. Um, and not doing things like rooting your phone or getting into those like the app stores that aren't like the official ones. Um, but yeah. Let's see one of the other ones that I looked at um, was, it's got stuff set up to where you can set up like a VoIP system, and basically tell it you know, what are the SIP networks, and you know, what are the SIP server networks, and what are the SIP client networks. So you can always, split those off. Um, I think, and I don't know, like, it's one of those things where, like, SIP is something that's definitely very interesting and interesting, development where you're basically doing kind of like your home phone things, except it's over like your Ethernet network, on Ethernet instead of your traditional phone lines, um, and things where like you could have something where like you have like a SIP client, for your telephone, basically your telephone on your computer, um, and then I mean you can also have this the SIP client, another SIP client on your cell phone, and so you could like yeah, you can make phone calls basically, whether you're home or not, pick them up. I mean, some of I mean, it's kind of like a cell phone kind of a thing. Um, but it could be something interesting where, I mean, for more on the enterprise, where maybe you could, you know, have a phone at your desk that's your work number, but then also be able to take it. And the other interesting thing would be able to just be able to just turn it off after work, after, when you're off work, so that you can kind of separate yourself and, take a break, which is definitely, I think, very important to, I mean, to work hard when you're at work, but then when you're off work, take a break and let your brain refresh and rest and relax and not just being go, 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 go. I just wanted to quick mention there's a bunch, most of these features down at the bottom here. I'll switch back to this here. The wireless protection, well, actually, sorry here. Endpoint protection only works with Windows. And they kind of, I think they have to be. Oh, yeah, yeah. You have to. It's only for Windows. And obviously, I don't have any, so I wasn't really able to do anything with that. That's with that endpoint protection. The wireless protection sounds really interesting. Just the ability to, again, these last few features: wireless protection, web server protection, red management, really even this site-to-site VPN are really all enterprise features. The wireless one, like, obviously, you have to use their access points, which are going to be expensive. Um, I even looked on their website, and they would just say, you know, basically ask, get a estimate, which you know when they say that, there's a reason they don't want to tell you what it costs. But it's interesting because it allow you to, because a lot of times with the access points, you gotta have to like configure them and load the firmware and stuff before you can deploy them. These ones you deploy them, and then they just automatically show up in their, uh, you know, their wireless protection settings and stuff. And then from there, you can remotely, add the firmware and get them up and running, which would be pretty cool. Like, especially like if you're trying to set it up for somebody else, and you could just mail them these, say, stick them up, and then let me connect in, and they'll show up, and I can, you can essentially remote in and do all your configurations. So kind of a cool, not something I'm probably gonna mess with. I did look; they did have, looked like they had added some more like remote access kind of setups. Um, this email protection thing, is something that like I want to jump back to, like might be something I look into, just because I was watching this webinar at work, and they're talking about that, like, one place they said like 75%, another place said like 90. In other words, a lot of the attacks nowadays are coming through like emails, like through like just bad links, or viruses actually on the email, or like phishing emails. And so, but the one thing I guess I'm looking at right now is this would be like if you have your own, maybe if like you have your own like your own email server. So one of those things where it's like, well, okay, that might be nice, but I don't have my own email server. But I mean, still something to think about. I mean, a lot of the services now have their spam filters, but I mean, again, it's still something to be careful about. I was really counting on that installation going just a little bit longer. It just, whoop. I didn't realize that. I mean, I just really didn't realize it was that fast. I don't know if there's anybody out there, if you have any kind of questions about something that I either didn't cover, something I covered, um, feel free to ask it out here in the YouTube chat. Just gonna check through here and make sure I didn't miss anything that I meant to talk about. I just went super quick. Just like it's like, well, I really thought that is. I keep saying that, but I really thought that installation was going to take longer. I'd be bouncing back and forth to it, and then it just doo doo doo, all done. I was like, uh. So that moment when I saw it finish, I was like, I am in trouble, because I was expecting it to take longer. Um, yeah, I think. Well, unless any of you out there have a question, I may just call this a day. I really, 'cause I think that's it. I don't see anything else. Just browsing through here. So I guess guess this week show is gonna be a little bit shorter. Which reminds me, I knew I was gonna have something. Um, wanted to just quick talk about um three. Think about this. Okay, so next week got a cool show. Where I think the plan is to talk a little bit about some home automation stuff that I've been looking at. Um, some really cool stuff. Um, next week I've got another cool something that might replace Smith TV for me as my backhand solution for TV. But I don't know. We'll see. Um, then that, guess that's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Third week, I'm gonna be. The plan is I will be out of town, so no show. But the show I wanted to talk to you about is the week after that. So 4 weeks. So I want to start talking about this a month in advance because I want I want you guys to be excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm hoping to get some, you know, kind of jump start the show. And like part of the show that I want, like what we've been doing is I think is gonna be part of it. But another dimension I really want to add is where we get you as the listener involved um, by trying to get you. Now, I want people to like say, "Hey, this is a project I want to do with it. Do how do I get this done cheap?" And looking at that, and and then looking through and trying to find a solution, and then and then obviously doing a show where we talk about what is the solution to this problem, and you know, maybe doing something like that, like maybe like once a month, something like that, depending on how many we have. I mean, who knows? And so a month from now, we're going to be moving. We're going to go from here, and we're going to do a show over on another platform called Blab. It's kind of an up and coming one, um, but we'll make it super easy to bring the viewers, you guys, on the show and talk. And so I'm hoping that you guys will bring all kinds of projects and stuff. And the idea is maybe we'll, um, if they're simple and like things that we've already talked about, we can do it. We can go boom, done. We can solve, give you guys some ideas and stuff of what to start working on. And then maybe, hopefully, we'll get someone that'll be like bigger ones, and we'll be like, oh my goodness, we're gonna do some checking on this. Maybe I'll shoot you an email looking for like, kind of like what are your criteria for the project, things you're looking for, and then we'll figure out a solution and we'll do a show on it. But just want to start getting you excited about it because I feel like that's really where I want the show to go. I want to get it to where, you know, it's not just me talking about. On top of that, I've got some cool hardware coming in, and hoping I can get some like maybe some interviews set up with the people that are making this hardware, and some interesting products on the like just doing a whole lot with not very much, and going on the cheaper side of some things, um, with some really cool ideas. So that's just a little preview, I guess you could say, if you're watching live, of what is to come. That's like a month out, and then I know there'll be a few shows after that will probably be related to some hardware that I have coming. Um, and then we'll probably get into some interesting NAS things. But yeah, got lots of stuff. Getting it, getting in gear. We're getting the preparation going. Um, and then, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna say it. Next week, either in a week or two, I'm gonna be starting up podcast number 2. Um, we are going to dive into the light of the world study show. Gonna be completely different from this one, because this one is very technology oriented. We're gonna dive just straight into the Bible. Already think I've got pretty much my first show topic lined up and done. Just have to make sure, see if I can seal the deal with a co-host potentially. Otherwise, we're just gonna go for it. I'm just like, I've kind of reached that point where it's like I'm ready to dive in and go all in and rock this out. Something that is recently just feeling very passionate about and super excited. If you cannot tell, you must not be watching. So, with that, I say go forth and maximize your impact, both in the technology world and just in the world beyond technology. Have fun.